It was a Friday evening in late October, the kind of night when the air carried both a chill and a strange, restless energy. Daniel, Sarah, Mark, and Lily had been planning this road trip for weeks. A final adventure before winter locked them indoors. Their plan was simple: drive through the Appalachian backroads, find a quiet cabin by a lake, and spend the weekend telling stories, grilling food, and escaping the stress of college life. None of them imagined that this trip would turn into something darker than any ghost story they could invent. They piled into Mark's old SUV just after sunset, the trunk stuffed with sleeping bags, backpacks, and too many snacks. The car smelled faintly of gasoline and leather, but laughter drowned out any discomfort. Daniel, the loudest of the group, connected his playlist, blasting music that rattled the speakers. Sarah sat in the passenger seat, reading directions off her phone, while Lily leaned against the backseat window, staring at the orange glow of the streetlights fading behind them. For the first hour, it felt like freedom. 4 friends on the open road, bound for nothing but adventure. But as the city lights dimmed, the atmosphere shifted. The roads grew emptier, winding deeper into the countryside. Houses disappeared, replaced by long stretches of farmland and shadowy woods. The sky above was moonless, and the stars, though brilliant, made the darkness below feel even heavier. Sarah glanced at her phone again, frowning at the dwindling bars of signal. "Don't worry," Mark said, tapping the steering wheel. "We'll be fine." That's what makes it exciting. No one noticed Lily's uneasy glance as the last streetlight vanished in the rearview mirror. They kept themselves distracted with jokes and stories. Daniel teased Mark about his terrible driving, while Sarah tried to keep the group focused on directions. Lily, usually the quiet one, felt the weight of the woods pressing in on her side of the window. Every few minutes, she thought she saw shapes in the tree line. Dark silhouettes that vanished the moment she blinked. She opened her mouth to mention it, but quickly shut it again, not wanting to be laughed at. By the time the dashboard clock blinked past 1100 p.m., the world outside felt completely empty. No other cars passed them. No distant glow of houses lit the horizon, and even the radio began to fade into static. The laughter slowly died down, replaced by an uneasy silence that none of them wanted to acknowledge. What started as an innocent road trip was already beginning to feel off. As the road snaked deeper into the countryside, the headlights struggled against the growing darkness. Mark drove with one hand lazily on the wheel, his confidence masking the tension building in the car. The GPS app on Sarah's phone kept spinning, refusing to lock onto a clear route. She tapped the screen over and over, muttering, "It's like it doesn't even know where we are." Daniel leaned forward between the seats, squinting at the map, but even he admitted it didn't make sense. "How can a road just not exist on the map?" he said, his usual joking tone falling flat. Around midnight, the group reached a faded fork in the road. The right path looked paved and maintained, while the left was narrow, lined with crooked trees, and almost swallowed by the forest. Sarah insisted they should stay on the main road, but the GPS suddenly glitched, flashing a message, rerouting, and pointed them left. Mark hesitated for only a moment before chuckling nervously. "When in doubt, trust the tech, right?" He turned the wheel, and the SUV rolled into the shadowy lane. The shift was immediate. The smooth hum of asphalt gave way to a rough, uneven crunch under the tires. The trees leaned closer, their branches clawing above like skeletal fingers, reaching across the road. The headlights only illuminated a few yards ahead, swallowed quickly by darkness. Lily whispered from the back, "This doesn't feel right." But her voice was drowned out by Daniel's forced laughter. Relax. Worst case, we get lost and end up camping in the car. No big deal. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Every turn looked the same. Narrow, winding, and endless. The car seemed trapped in a looping trail of curves with no signs, no houses, and no lights in the distance. Sarah tried refreshing her phone, but the signal had completely vanished. This can't be right, she muttered, her voice trembling slightly. Mark tightened his grip on the wheel, pretending not to hear her unease. Daniel tried to lighten the mood, but even he kept glancing at the rearview mirror, as if expecting something to appear. The tension thickened when they realized there hadn't been a single road sign for miles, not even a speed limit marker or a warning curve. It was as if this stretch of road had been forgotten by time, or erased entirely. Sarah broke the silence with a nervous laugh. It feels like the road doesn't want us to leave. The words hung in the air, heavy and unsettling, and this time, no one even tried to laugh. Just when the road seemed endless, a faint glow appeared in the distance. The friends let out a collective sigh of relief, thinking it was a town or at least some sign of civilization. As the SUV rolled closer, the light revealed a rundown gas station, sitting at the edge of the woods. Its flickering neon sign buzzed weakly, half the letters burnt out so that it read only GA. One lonely gas pump stood crooked on the cracked pavement, and the windows of the building were so dusty, it was hard to tell if anyone actually worked inside. Mark pulled the car up beside the pump, the engine rumbling in the unnatural quiet. No other vehicles were around. The air smelled faintly of gasoline and rust, mixed with the dampness of the surrounding forest. Sarah looked uneasy, clutching her phone as though it might protect her. "This place doesn't even look open," she whispered. But Daniel, ever curious, jumped out first. The sound of his sneakers, crunching on gravel, echoed louder than it should have, as if the night itself was listening. The group hesitated before following him inside. The door creaked open, setting off a rusty bell that clanged overhead. The interior was dimly lit, with a single buzzing fluorescent tube, casting long shadows across shelves of expired snacks and dusty soda bottles. Behind the counter sat an old man, his skin weathered like leather, eyes clouded yet strangely alert. He looked up slowly, as though he had been waiting. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, in a raspy voice, he asked, "Where are you kids headed this late?" Mark tried to keep his tone casual. "Just passing through. Looking for the highway." The old man's gaze lingered on each of them, unblinking, before he shook his head. "Highway don't run this way anymore," he said flatly. His words carried a weight that none of them could explain. Sarah stepped forward, almost pleading. "So, how do we get back?" The man leaned closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "Turn back now. Don't follow that road past midnight. Folks don't come back from it." The silence after his warning was suffocating. Daniel laughed nervously, brushing it off as a local trying to scare tourists. But Lily couldn't shake the chill crawling up her spine. She tugged at Sarah's sleeve, whispering, "Let's just go." The old man didn't look away as they turned to leave. His cloudy eyes followed them until the door creaked shut behind them. Outside, the forest loomed darker than before, and for the first time, none of them made a joke. The SUV rolled back onto the narrow road, its headlights cutting through the darkness like weak blades. The laughter and chatter that once filled the car had died completely. Even Daniel, usually the loudest, sat quietly in the back, staring out into the endless trees. The silence inside the vehicle was matched only by the silence outside. No crickets, no owls, No rustling of night animals. Just a heavy, unnatural stillness that seemed to smother everything. It was as though the forest itself was holding its breath. The farther they drove, the thicker the trees became, their branches twisting into grotesque shapes overhead. At times, the headlights caught the gleam of bark that looked too much like faces. Gnarled, grimacing expressions staring at the car. Sarah gripped her seatbelt tightly, every bump in the road making her flinch. "This doesn't feel right," she whispered, almost to herself. Mark pressed harder on the gas, his jaw clenched, pretending he hadn't heard her. Then came the noises. At first, it was faint, like footsteps pacing the tree line, just out of view. Lily sat up straighter, eyes wide, her breath fogging the window as she tried to follow the sounds. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. No one answered. A moment later, the sound came again, branches snapping, something moving deliberately alongside them, matching their speed. Daniel leaned forward, squinting through the side window. "It's probably just deer," he muttered, though his voice lacked conviction. The road narrowed even further, forcing the SUV to crawl between trees that loomed so close their branches scraped against the sides of the car. The sound was sharp and grating, like fingernails clawing metal. Lily gasped, swearing she saw a figure dart between the trunks. Tall, pale, and impossibly fast. She blinked, and it was gone. Her heart raced, but when she tried to tell the others, Daniel cut her off. "Don't start, Lily. It's just the woods messing with you." Yet even he kept glancing nervously at the mirror, as if expecting something to appear behind them. As the minutes dragged on, the whispers began. Soft at first, like wind weaving through the branches. But there was no wind. The words were impossible to understand, layered, almost chanting. Sarah covered her ears, shaking her head. "Please tell me you hear that," she begged. But the others remained silent, refusing to admit what was growing louder with every passing mile. The forest wasn't just silent anymore. It was speaking. The dashboard clock blinked past 100 a.m. when Sarah noticed something strange outside her window. "Wait," she murmured, leaning closer to the glass. "Didn't we just pass mile marker 27? Mark frowned but kept driving. 10 minutes later, the same green sign appeared again, its white numbers glowing eerily in the headlights. 27. Daniel laughed nervously from the back seat. "Wes, they forgot how to count out here." No one else laughed. A cold hush filled the car as the realization sank in. They weren't moving forward. They were trapped in a loop. Mark tried brushing it off, pressing harder on the accelerator. The SUV groaned as it sped down the twisting lane, but when the headlights illuminated the next sign, Sarah gasped. 27 again. The number gleamed brighter this time, as though mocking them. Lily's knuckles turned white as she gripped the seat. "That's impossible," she whispered. "We've been driving for miles." The air in the SUV grew stifling, thick with unspoken fear. The road outside looked the same in every direction. Endless trees, endless black, endless repetition. Then the radio began to hiss. The static bled through the speakers, replacing Daniel's playlist without warning. It started as a low crackle, but soon a faint voice seeped through the noise. At first, it was too muffled to understand, but gradually the words became clearer, chilling them all. "Don't look back. Don't look back." Sarah slammed her hand against the dial, but the voice wouldn't stop. The radio refused to shut off, as if controlled by something else. Mark swore under his breath, his knuckles white on the wheel. The signs grew more frequent. Instead of every few miles, the 27 markers began appearing every few hundred feet, glowing brighter, looming larger. Each time they passed one, The voice on the radio grew sharper, layered, like more than one person was whispering now. "Don't look back," it repeated, in overlapping tones, some high-pitched, some guttural. Lily's breathing grew shallow as she turned toward the window. "What happens if we do?" she asked softly, almost to herself. No one dared to answer. Daniel, restless and frustrated, finally turned in his seat to glance out the back window. "See. There's nothing." His words cut off abruptly. His face drained of color, eyes wide, as though he had seen something the others couldn't. "Drive faster," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Don't stop. Whatever you do, don't stop." Mark didn't ask questions. He floored the gas, the SUV roaring through the suffocating dark. But no matter how fast they went, the road refused to change. And always, waiting ahead in the beam of the headlights, was the same marker, 27. The fog rolled in without warning, thick and suffocating, swallowing the road until the headlights could barely cut through a few feet ahead. The world outside the SUV turned into a pale, shifting wall, and every shadow seemed alive within it. The friends fell silent, their breaths shallow as though the air itself was too heavy to breathe. Mark leaned forward over the wheel, squinting desperately. "Just stay calm," he muttered, though his trembling hands betrayed his words. In the back seat, Daniel pressed his forehead against the glass, trying to peer into the haze. "I swear something's out there," he whispered. Lily reached over to grab his arm, her touch shaking. "Stop it, Daniel. Don't say that." But her plea came too late. Just then, the static hissed again through the radio, louder than before, and the voice returned. This time a chorus of whispers, each one repeating in perfect unison. "One must stay. One must stay." The repetition grew so loud that Sarah covered her ears, screaming for it to stop. The SUV jolted violently as if it had hit something, but the road ahead was empty. Mark swerved, nearly losing control, the tires screeching against the pavement. Everyone was thrown forward in their seats, except Daniel. When the fog cleared for a brief moment, his spot in the back seat was empty. His backpack still sat against the cushion, his phone still charging in the console, his seat belt still buckled, as if he had never been there at all. The air where he had been felt icy cold, colder than the rest of the car. Panic erupted instantly. Lily screamed Daniel's name until her voice cracked, clawing at the empty seat as if he might reappear. Sarah fumbled for her phone, even though there was no signal, desperately dialing his number over and over. Mark's voice broke as he shouted, "He was just here! He was right here!" But deep down, none of them believed Daniel had simply disappeared. It felt deliberate, like the road, or something within it, had claimed him. The fog pressed tighter around the car, muting their cries, smothering their fear. Every instinct screamed at them to stop, to search for him, but Mark refused to slow down. "We can't stop," he said, his knuckles bone, white against the wheel. "If we stop, we're next." The words silenced the others, though their bodies trembled in shock. Daniel was gone, taken without sound, without trace, and the road ahead stretched on endlessly, waiting to see who would be next. By the time dawn's first light should have touched the sky, the car was still trapped in darkness. Hours had passed, yet the horizon never shifted, the forest never ended. Sarah sat rigid in her seat, clutching her phone like a lifeline, though the screen only displayed no service. Lily had stopped crying, her wide, empty stare fixed on Daniel's abandoned seat. The SUV rattled along the broken pavement as if it, too, was exhausted, but Mark refused to let his foot off the gas. His face was pale, lips pressed into a grim line, eyes darting to the mirrors, as though expecting something to emerge from the fog. Somewhere around 300 a.m., Sarah remembered the camera on her phone. Hands trembling, she opened it, pointing the lens toward the windshield. The recording captured the dim headlights, cutting into the mist, the empty road stretching endlessly ahead. At first, it was nothing unusual, just the monotonous blur of fog and trees. But then, faintly, something appeared. In the distance, framed by the weak beam of light, stood a shadowy figure. It was too far to make out, but tall, unmoving, and directly in the center of the road. Mark's voice broke through the silence, shaky but determined. "He's in the road," he whispered, though whether he meant Daniel or something else, none of them knew. The SUV swerved violently as Mark jerked the wheel, the camera shaking in Sarah's trembling hands. The video caught flashes of trees, streaks of mist, and then, just for a split second, a pale face pressed against the side window, eyes hollow, mouth open as though screaming silently. The image vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving only the chaotic sound of Sarah's ragged breathing on the recording. The footage ended abruptly, the phone slipping from her hands as the car jolted again. When investigators later recovered the phone from the abandoned SUV, they would replay the clip dozens of times, freezing the frame on the pale face, analyzing every pixel. But no explanation ever came. The timestamp confirmed the recording stopped at 3:15 a.m. The same moment Daniel had vanished earlier. The parallel was too haunting to ignore. By morning, only Sarah and Mark were found staggering down a rural stretch of road miles from where they had last been seen, their clothes torn, their eyes vacant with shock. They remembered nothing of how they escaped the car, or what happened after the recording ended. Lily was never seen again. All that remained was Sarah's phone, the corrupted video file, and the road itself, waiting, silent, hungry for the next traveler who dared to enter. And so, the tale of that road trip remains unsolved. One friend gone without a trace, another lost forever in the fog, and the survivors unable to explain what happened that night. The video, the whispers, the endless road, all remain as fragments of a nightmare that no one can fully piece together. To this day, drivers in the Appalachians swear they've seen that same crooked mile marker 27, glowing faintly in the mist. Some even claim to hear the whispers on their radios late at night. Don't look back. Perhaps it was just a legend. Perhaps something darker still lingers in those woods, waiting for the next lost traveler to take a wrong turn. One thing is certain. If you ever find yourself on an unfamiliar road after midnight, and the signs begin to repeat, don't stop. Don't look back. And whatever you do, don't take that turn.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.